Hello students, welcome to another class on growth and development that is included in your unit 4 of biology paper, as you know, that is your plant physiology. And as in the previous class we have already discussed what is growth and what are the different factors that are affecting the growth processes, and in that we have discussed both the external factors and the internal factors. External factors we have discussed like water, air, temperature, oxygen, etc., and similarly many internal factors also we have discussed, and one of the most important internal factors that affects the plant growth and development process, those are the plant growth regulators, the phytohormones. And in this particular class we will discuss in detail about the plant growth regulators and what are they, what are their what about their distribution, their chemical nature, and the most important thing is their function or the physiological effects. All these things we will discuss in detail. So, let us discuss what are plant growth regulators. These plant growth regulators, they are very simple and small chemical molecules which are diverse chemical composition. That means, all these plant growth regulators are not of similar chemical composition, they are of various diverse chemical composition, and they act in very low concentration. They regulate growth, differentiation, development, all these processes, and at the same time they promote the growth process or they inhibit also some of the growth processes. And there is another name for plant growth regulators, that is known as the phytohormones, and in short plant growth regulators are known as PGRs. So, the exact definition for plant growth hormones, these are: the plant hormone is a chemical substance which is other than the nutrient molecules, and those are produced naturally in plants, which may be transmitted to other regions for regulating one or more physiological reactions when they are present in very low concentration. So, this is the exact definition of plant growth hormones. These growth hormones, they act in very low concentration, and these are the chemicals other than the nutrient molecules. And let us discuss their general characteristics. These plant growth hormone regulators or hormones are involved in variety of growth, differentiation and development of processes, and these are very effective only in very low concentration. In high concentration they are not effective, in very low concentration only they are effective. And the site of production of plant growth regulators or the phytohormones, it may be same or different with the site of the actions. That means the plant growth hormones which are produced at one place, they may act at the same place or they may act at the different places. And these plant growth hormones, they are not produced in specialized tissues or glands, unlike animals. As you know, in case of animals or in human beings, we are having different types of glands in which different hormones are produced and they control the growth processes. But unlike animals, in case of plants there is no such specialized tissue or glands in which the plant growth regulators are produced, but they are synthesized in many places in different tissues in the plant body. Then what are the different types of plant growth regulators occur in plants? Actually, all these phytohormones or plant growth regulators, they are broadly classified into two types. That is, some of them they act as growth promoters, that means they promote some growth reactions like cell division, cell enlargement, tropic growth, flowering, fruiting and seed germination. Whereas, some of them they inhibit the growth processes, like they lead to dormancy, abscission, response to stress and wound, like this. That is why they are broadly classified into growth promoters and growth inhibitors. Again, these growth promoters are of three types. Three different types of growth promoters are there in plants. They are known as auxin, gibberellins and cytokinase. Similarly, these ethylene and abscisic acid, they are considered as growth inhibitors. So, altogether there are 5 different types of phytohormones which we will be discussing in this class in detail one by one. So, the first hormone, that is auxin. This is the best known plant hormone, and it is the first formed or first discovered plant hormone. And how it was discovered? So, actually Charles Darwin, who discovered the theory of evolution, the same Charles Darwin and his son Francis Darwin in the year 1881, they were studying the effects of light and gravity on the seedling of coleoptile of canary grass, one monocot plant known as canary grass or Phalaris canariensis. And while studying the effect of light and gravity on the coleoptile of this grass, they found that the direction of the growth of this coleoptile, it is influenced when its tip is exposed to light, not the base. So, how this experimental setup was that it like this. So, these are 4 experimental setups. So, this is your grass coleoptile. The actually coleoptile is a covering which is produced on the germinated shoot sheath or leaf sheath in this grass. So, coleoptiles are produced in the germinated seeds, and in these experimental setups there is 4 different types of setups you see. In the first case the tip of the coleoptile is cut, and in the second case the tip is covered with a opaque cap. Opaque means the light cannot be transmitted through this cap. So, tip is covered here and with an opaque cap, whereas in the third setup the tip is covered with a transparent cap. That means the light can pass through it and the tip can receive the light. Similarly, in the fourth case, the last case, the tip is exposed, it is not cut, it is exposed to light, whereas its base is covered with an opaque covering or the opaque shield, so that it cannot get the light stimulus. So, what they found, you see, in these first 2 cases there is no symptom of growth, whereas in the second and whereas in the third and fourth setup you find the growth. How you find the growth? You see, there is bending movement. Bending movement means at this place, at the basal portion of the coleoptile, growth has taken place. That is why the bending is seen. So, growth has taken place or growth is observed in these 2 third and fourth setup. So, from this they concluded that certain kind of influence, that is chemical in nature. So, we can say it as chemical influence which is generated at its tip of the coleoptile and which is transmitted to the base where the actual growth has taken place. Because you see, in this case the tip is getting light because it is covered with a transparent cap. Here the tip is exposed. So, both of them are getting the light stimulus, but growth is taking place at the basal portion. So, they concluded that, Darwin and his son concluded that the stimulus is received by the tip of the coleoptile and it is transmitted to the base portion where the actual growth is taking place. So, what is this chemical influence? It was not isolated by them. Later in the year 1928, F.W. Wendt, they studied the degree of curvature of the coleoptile. It is directly proportional to the concentration of the chemical influence which is produced in the tip, and he isolated this chemical influence and he named it at auxin. And this word auxin, it has been derived from a Greek word known as auxein, which means to grow or to increase. So, this is how auxin is discovered, first hormone. Then what is the chemical nature of auxin? Auxins are the weak organic acids in nature, and you find there are 2 types of auxins. I have told you that these phytohormones are naturally produced. So, auxin is a naturally produced hormone, no doubt, but at the same time they can be synthesized also. So, that is why there are 2 types of auxin found, one is called natural auxin, another is called synthetic auxin. And the examples of natural auxin, these are auxin A, auxin B, heteroauxin, which is known as indole 3 acetic acid. In short, it is known as, very popularly it is known as IAA. Similarly, there is indole 3-acetaldehyde, and the examples of synthetic oxygens are naphthalene acetic acid, NAA, and the 2,4-D, which is the 2,4-dichlorophenoxyacetic acid, and also the 2,4-T, that is 2,4,5-trichlorophenoxyacetic acid. So, all these are synthetic oxygens. So, altogether there are two types of oxygens, natural and synthetic. And what are the general characteristics of oxygen? Oxygens are synthesized mostly at the tip portion or the apices of the plant parts, and their synthesis is inhibited at the illuminated site. That means, actually they are synthesized in the shade region, not the where the light is there the oxygen is not synthesized, rather it is synthesized at the unilluminated side, and oxygens are transported from apex to base on the dark or unilluminated side, and these are soluble in water. And about their distribution, oxygens are found in almost all types of plants, and in plants they are continuously synthesized in the shoot apices and also in young leaves, but they in roots they are produced in very small amounts. And oxygens in the shoots they are transported from shoots to roots, and this movement from apex to base or from the top to down, it is called as the basipital movement, or it is known as the polar transport of oxygen, which is very well known and which is very important. Then oxygens move slowly by the process of diffusion from one cell to another. So, actually very short distance movement occurs through cell to cell diffusion, whereas the long distance diffusion, if long distance transport is there, then it needs the vascular elements. And the concentration of oxygen, it affects the growth, and generally the low concentration of oxygen stimulates the growth, whereas the high concentration would inhibit the growth process of a cell or an organ. Then the most important thing, what are the functions of the oxygen, or what are the physiological effects of the hormone oxygen. So, one by one we will discuss, because it is having many physiological effects on plants. Like the first one is your cell division. Oxygens induce cell division at different times, like at the time of healing the wounds. Whenever there is some injury found in plants, to recover that injury, the plant is needed to having more number of cells. So, that is why it needs cell division. At that time, oxygen helps it to oxygen induce cell division, and it helps in in the healing of the wounds. Similarly, cell division is also induced by oxygen during the secondary growth, which is found in cambium. You know, cambium is present within the vascular elements, or the within the in between the xylem and phloem, and they are meant for the secondary growth, and secondary growth leads to the increase in the diameter of the plants. So, during the time of secondary growth of the cambium, oxygen induced there. So, oxygen helps in the cambial activity and leads to secondary growth. Similarly, oxygens are also used in tissue culture, that is the artificial culture of plant cells or plant parts to regenerate the whole plant. It is a artificial culture method, where also it also induce cell division in the plant parts, which are used as explants in the tissue culture method. Another function is the cell enlargement, which is the most fundamental activity of all oxygens, and it is caused by the processes like solubilization of the carbohydrates, that means the complex carbohydrates are converted to simple ones, and also the synthesis of more wall materials, and also increasing the cell membrane permeability and also respiration. So, by all these processes, it helps in the enlargement of cell in a plant. Similarly, oxygen also helps in root initiation. So, application of oxygens like IAA, indole acetic acid, and naphthalene acetic acid, and indole butyric acid, IBA, they can be applied to the cut end of the stem, and they stimulates the formation of the root. Suppose you want to generate or propagate rose plant through the stem cuttings. So, you take some stem cuttings and dip them into the auxin solution, and after some days the roots will be formed, then you put it in the soil and they will grow into the whole plant. So, like this, so root initiation can be induced by this type of auxins. Then the shortening of the internodes. Actually, certain plants like in case of pear and apple, there are two types of branches, and the fruits they are actually borne in the dwarf branches or small branches. And so, to get more number of fruits, if you apply these auxin to the terminal shoots with high concentration, then what will happen there? The elongation of the stem, it is prevented. So, once elongation is prevented means they will be converted into dwarf shoots, and these dwarf shoots they bear fruits. So, more number of dwarf shoots means more number of fruit production. So, auxin can be treated to get more number of fruits by inducing the production of the dwarf branches in the plants like pear and apple. Similarly, another effect is known as apical dominance. So, first we should understand what is apical dominance. So, apical dominance is a phenomenon by which in the presence of apical bud, the lateral buds they cannot grow. So, actually the apical buds they do not allow the lateral buds to grow, because they produce auxin at that place which do not allow the lateral buds to grow. But if the apical buds are removed, then the lateral buds will develop and lateral branches will be developed, and this will lead to a bushy growth of the plant. So, and this knowledge has been utilized for the tea plucking and haze making. That means, in case of tea plant, you must be knowing there is the apical buds or the apical leaves, and with buds they are removed, and that will lead to the formation of more number of lateral branches. More number of lateral branches means it will give rise to a bushy appearance or haze like appearance in the plant. So, to make the bushy growth you need to remove the apical bud, but that is why and that leads to the formation of lateral bud or the lateral branches. So, this knowledge is applied and the tea plucking and haze making, the knowledge of apical dominance by auxin. Another effect of auxin is inhibition of abscission. So, what is abscission? Abscission means falling of leaves, falling of fruits or falling of flowers. So, leaves when they mature, when they get old, they fall, that is natural that is occurring, but if they fall before their maturation or premature falling, it is very harmful for the plant. So, auxin delays abscission of the young leaves and fruits by preventing the formation of abscission zone or abscission layer. So, application of auxin like 2,4-D and NAA, naphthalene acetic acid, to the leaves and fruits, they will prevent the premature falling. You see, in this particular experiment, this leaf is cut and petiole is there. If you just place it, it is not treated by the auxin or any other hormone, then what will happen? After some days, the petiole will fall down. But if the same thing is applied with auxin, you will find the auxin is applied here. So, there is no falling of the petiole. So, this shows that auxin helps in preventing the formation of abscission or the separation layer. So, that helps in the preventing of the formation of prevention of the premature falling of leaf and fruits and which is very useful for the plant. And another effect of auxin is eradication of weeds. What are weeds? Weeds are the undesired plants in a crop or in a crop field, which are undesired because they can take away the nutrients. So, instead of crop plants, instead of the economic plants which we grow them in the crop field, instead of them those herbs or the small plants, they will take away the nutrients which is very much harmful for the crops. That is why these weeds has to be eradicated, and the synthetic auxins like 2,4-D and 2,4,5-T, these are very popularly known as the herbicides or weedicides, because they can kill these herbs, unwanted herbs in the crop field. So, these are applied to remove the broad leaved weeds in the cereal crops and lawns also, because they do not affect the mature monocots. So, this 2,4-D and 2,4,5-T, they are mostly used as herbicides or weedicides. Then the initiation of flowering. In many plants like lychee and pineapple, these types of auxins are used like NAA and 2,4-D, which induce the flowering process in these plants. And then another function, it is known as the parthenocarpy. So, auxin induce parthenocarpy in certain plants. So, let us know first what is parthenocarpy. Parthenocarpy means it is the formation of fruit without fertilization or pollination. So, if a fruit is formed without fertilization process or without pollination process, then it will produce a seedless fruits. So, parthenocarpy leads to formation of seedless fruits, and you know seedless fruits are having commercial value, because all of us we prefer to eat the fruits without seeds than the fruits with seeds. Like suppose grapes, all of you love to eat seedless grapes than to grapes with seeds. So, this auxin hormone, it helps in formation of the parthenocarpy or seedless fruits. Suppose for example, here in this photograph, it is tomato plant is shown, and these are the tomato flowers, and if there is no pollination and if you not apply any hormone, then what will happen? After some days they will drop off these flowers. But if you apply these flowers with these unpollinated flowers with auxin hormone, what will happen? Fruit will develop. Even if although there is no fertilization or there is no pollination, the flower will develop into a fruit by the application of auxin, and that fruit is without seed, because since there is no fertilization, there will be no seed. So, this fruit is known as the seedless fruit or the parthenocarpic fruit. So, by applying the auxins like IAA, indole acetic acid, and IBA to the unpollinated pistils in the gynoecium or the female part of the flower, the seedless fruit can develop, which is having a better market price and it is having a commercial value. So, all this we have discussed these physiological effects. Other than these physiological effects, auxin also leads to formation of female flowers, and it also helps in the tropic movements like phototropism and geotropism. All these functions are also there. We have discussed some of the important functions of the auxin. Then we will go to the next hormone, that is your gibberellin. Gibberellins are actually weak acidic hormones. Just like auxins, they are also acidic and weakly acidic hormones, and they stimulate growth largely in the shoot region of the plant. And these gibberellins were first reported by Kurosawa in the year 1926, and this particular name gibberellin, it has been derived from a fungus which is known as the Gibberella fujikuroi. According to this fungus, because from this fungus it has been isolated, that is why it is named as gibberellin. And this gibberellin hormone, it was isolated by Yabuta in the year 1935 from the same fungus Gibberella fujikuroi, and Yabuta named it as the gibberellic acid. In short, it is known as GA. GA means gibberellic acid. Then about the distribution, we found gibberellin in almost all types of plants like algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms, angiosperms, all types of plants they are found, but were found very few species of bacteria and fungi. And in case of plants, they are found particularly in the growing young shoot tips, young apical leaves, buds, embryos and also seeds. This is about their distribution. Then about the types of gibberellins, at present there are about 126 number or 126 types of gibberellins are found in different plants, fungi and also bacteria. And these all 126 number of gibberellic acids, they are numbered as GA1 means gibberellic acid 1, GA2 gibberellic acid 2 like this. So, GA1, 2, 3 like this, and only and out of these 126 types, the 15 types they have been isolated from the fungus, only from the fungus Gibberella fujikurae. Then we will discuss what are the functions of gibberellin or the physiological effects. So, first one, it is the bolting and flowering in LDP. So, we have to know what is the bolting, flowering you know, and what is LDP. So, LDP means long day plants, the plants which require the long day for their flowering or for their growth processes, they are known as long day plants. And bolting is the elongation of internode. So, how gibberellin helps in bolting? Actually, gibberellins induce subapical meristem to develop faster. Subapical means just below the apex region. The subapical meristem they develop faster due to the effect of gibberellin, and that causes the elongation of internode. Elongation of internode is known as the bolting in case of rosette plants. In rosette plants, you know, these leaves they are present in a circle or hole, they are placed very close to each other. So, this is the example of a rosette plants like cabbage and also in case of radish. And these rosette plants they under cold nights or long days, and in the next season they utilize this stimuli and they flower by elongating their internode. So, they need actually two different seasons for their flowering. So, in one season they receive the stimulus and another season they flower. And but if you apply gibberellin, the gibberellin treatment causes them to bolt and flower. That is why it is said that the long day plants can be made to flower in the off season by gibberellin, because you are giving applying gibberellin, so they can flower in one season or off season. Then other effects like elongation of genetically dwarf plants. Some plants are genetically dwarf, dwarf means small, and by applying gibberellin, the genetically small plants or dwarf plants they made to grow to normal size. So, they can be grown to normal size by the application of gibberellin. Why this happens? Because as you already know, the gibberellin stimulates the elongation of internode and this led to the increase in their length. So, these genetically dwarf plants they can be converted to normal size by application of gibberellin. Then the parthenocarpy, just like auxin, gibberellins also help in parthenocarpy. Actually, they are more effective than the auxins in inducing parthenocarpy in many plants like tomato, apple, pear, etc. And these gibberellins are used in a very commercial purpose for the production of large sized and seedless fruit, because large size means they will give you more food and they are seedless. So, they are very much desirable, they are having commercial value. So, to grow large size seedless fruits, the gibberellins are generally applied and they are more effective than auxin for producing parthenocarpic fruits. Then another effect of gibberellin is breaking of dormancy. What is dormancy? Dormancy is a period of rest which the seeds and buds, tubers they take before germination process, and this dormancy period it can be broken by gibberellin application. So, gibberellins overcome the natural dormancy of buds, tubers and seeds and allow them to grow or to germinate. In this function they are antagonistic to ABA. So, ABA we will discuss later. ABA means abscisic acid, they are just opposite to abscisic acid. because abscisic acid they promote dormancy, whereas gibberellin acid they help in breaking the dormancy process in the seeds, tubers and other parts. Then other effects of gibberellin, they are, that is the seed germination, which is the most important one. During seed germination, what happens, the gibberellin they stimulate the production of hydrolyzing enzymes. Hydrolyzing enzymes like amylase, lipase, protease, ribonuclease, etc. And these hydrolyzing enzymes which are produced inside the seed, actually they solubilizes the reserve food, that means they convert the complex food material present in the seed into the simple one, and these simple food they are transferred to the embryo axis for their growth. So, for example, this enzyme like amylase, it converts the complex carbohydrate like starch to glucose, and similarly lipase converts the fats into the fats or the lipids into glycerol and fatty acids. The protease converts proteins into amino acids like this. So, the complex food material they are converted into simple ones by applying the by gibberellic acids which are naturally produced within the seeds, and they help in germination process, because this by utilizing this simple foods material, the embryo inside the seed they grow or they germinate. And the next one is your promotion of male flower. Gibberellins promote formation of male flower, or you can say it promotes maleness in plants like cannabis, cucurbita, etc. So, if you apply gibberellin, more number of male flower will be produced. So, all these are the function of gibberellins. So, we will discuss the next hormone, that is cytokinin. Unlike the gibberellic acid and the auxin, cytokinin hormone is a basic in nature. It is not acidic, it is basic in nature, and it mainly promotes cytokinesis, and that is why the name is cytokinin. And this was first discovered by Skoog and Miller, and the first discovered cytokinin is known as kinetin. It is a synthetic hormone, it is not naturally produced, but it is a one type of cytokinin discovered by Skoog and Miller. And this kinetin is a derived of derivation of derivative of adenine, you know adenine, the nitrogenous base, and the first natural cytokinin which was discovered, it was the zeatin by Litham in 1964. So, the zeatin, kinetin, all these are different types of cytokinin hormones. Then about the distribution, cytokinin occur in almost all plants including algae, mosses, ferns and gymnosperms and angiosperms, and in case of plants they are most abundantly found in the cells or tissues where rapid cell division occurs, like for example, the growing embryo, developing seeds, young buds, etc. So, these are continuously dividing, that is why abundantly cytokinin is found in these tissues. And this coconut milk, which is a part of the coconut seed, it is the rich source of cytokinin hormone, that is why it is utilized or it is applied in your tissue culture experiments. Now, other effects of cytokinin are like breaking of dormancy. Just like gibberellin, it also helps in breaking of dormancy of seeds, and thus it helps in their germination. Then the feminizing effect means cytokinin promotes the production of female flower. It is just opposite to gibberellin, which gibberellin promotes male flower production, whereas cytokinin promote femaleness or formation of female flowers. Then cytokinin also helps in differentiation process. Cytokinin induce formation of new leaves, shoot also. So, it helps in differentiation and also differentiation in case of interfascicular cambium. In case of cambium, the differentiation process mainly occurs through auxin, whereas in interfascicular cambium the differentiation mostly due to the formation of cytokinin. Then another effect is resistance. If you apply cytokinin, it is helpful to plants in developing resistance to pathogens and also some extreme environmental conditions like extreme temperature. So, cytokinin gives resistance to plant against the pathogen. So, there will be less disease or no disease, and to extreme temperature also it gives resistance to the plants. Then the other functions like delay in senescence, which is the most important one also, and you should know what is senescence plants. So, senescence is a process of deterioration, or you can say it is a process of aging, and in this process you see two important symptoms of aging. These are the disappearance of chlorophyll and the degradation of the protein molecule. These two important symptoms of the aging process or senescence processes. So, the cytokinin hormone, what it does, cytokinin hormone delay these processes, these disappearance of chlorophyll and degradation of protein, all these symptoms, all these processes are delayed by cytokinin hormone, and that is known as the delay in senescence. If senescence is delayed, that means the aging process is delayed. So, we cannot find the yellow leaves or the other aging symptoms in plants. So, this particular effect of cytokinin is known as the Richmond-Lang effect, because they discovered this. So, it is known as Richmond-Lang effect. So, you see in this particular photograph the two plants, the same plant is same type of plant or same species of plants, but one plant is showing aging like the yellowing of leaves, and it is seen in the photograph that these leaves have becomes aged, but here you see the leaves are there is no age sign of age here, because here it is applied with cytokinin and it is not applied. So, it is showing the symptoms of aging. So, cytokinin delays the senescence process or aging process. So, the plants they look fresh. So, these cytokinin they are applied in the plant products like lettuce and cabbage. The leaves of lettuce and cabbage they are applied with cytokinin, and also mushrooms also, and many other fruits and vegetables, and that keep them fresh, because since there is no yellowing or there is no disappearance of chlorophyll. So, they will look fresh. Some florists also they apply cytokinin to keep these cut flowers fresh. So, this particular application of cytokinin or physiological effect is most So, the physiological effects of cytokinin we have discussed, and let us just discuss another hormone, that is the ethylene. Ethylene is a very unique type of hormone, because it is a gaseous hormone, and as you know ethylene is one type of alkyne, or it is a hydrocarbon, and it is produced in plants from the amino acid methionine, and the most widely used compound which is as a source of ethylene, it is known as the ethphon, and it was first discovered by Crocker et al. in the year 1935. And about the distribution, ethylene is found in almost all plants, and the plant plants in which the ethylene is distributed, they are the roots, leaves, flowers, fruits, seeds, tubers and seedling. Almost all plant parts ethylene is distributed, and its production can also be induced by the wounding or environmental stress, or even the oxygen also it can induce the production of ethylene hormone. Then the physiological effects or the function of ethylene, first one, it is the fruit ripening. This is the most important physiological function of ethylene, and ethylene is mainly known for its effect on fruit ripening, and ripening of fruit is always associated with an increase in the rate of respiration, and this is known as the respiratory climacteric. And ethylene is used commercially to produce ripened food, or to stimulate ripening of fruits like bananas, apples, mangoes, even citrus fruits and many other fruits also. They are commercially their products produce a ripe fruits of this plant produced in a commercial scale by using ethylene. And you see here this how this ripe apple, it induces the ripening of the banana, it is seen. Since it is a gaseous hormone, it is when it is produced, these gases are diffused, so that it can also make other raw fruits ripe, which are present nearby. Here you see, if you keep this ripe banana with raw banana together, then after some days the ripening will be induced in this raw banana, clear. And the other physiological effects like growth. Ethylene actually, it generally it inhibits longitudinal growth, but it promotes horizontal growth. Horizontal means that will lead to increase in the diameter or the thickness of the plants or the tree trunks, and it also having the effect in breaking of dormancy, just like gibberellin and cytokinin also. It also helps in dormancy process, and it breaks the dormancy of seeds and buds and promotes seed germination in many plants like peanut seeds and also in the sprouting of potato tubers. Then it also helps in flowering. In case of plants like pineapple, mango and watermelon, ethylene can induce flowering. It also helps in root hair development. In very low concentration, this ethylene helps in the growth of lateral roots and also root hairs. So, this helps in increasing the water absorbing surfaces of the plant. And then other effects of ethylene, like it has feminizing effect. That means, if you apply ethylene, then the more number of female flowers will be produced. Just like the cytokinin hormone, ethylene also help in production of more number of female flowers and hence more number of fruits in plants like cucumber. Then it also promotes senescence and abscission in plant organs, especially leaves, flowers and fruits. You already know what is senescence. It is the deterioration process or aging process in plants that leads to the falling or abscission of plant parts like leaves, fruits and flowers. Similarly, the ethylene also help in elongation. It promotes rapid elongation of leaf bases and also internodes in deep water rice plants. So, what is deep water rice? It is a certain type of rice variety which are grown in deep water. That means, there the water depth is more. So, in these plants the ethylene it is applied so that the the leaf bases they will be elongated, so that the leaves will remain above water, because if leaves will be within water, then that will affect the photosynthetic process and ultimately it will affect the growth and also the production of the rice plant. That is why to keep these leaves above the water, so these deep water rice plants they are applied with ethylene, so that their leaf bases will elongate and the leaves will be above the water. Then the last one, the last plant hormone that we will discuss, that is the abscisic acid. Abscisic acid is a mildly acidic growth hormone, like gibberellic acid. It is also an acidic growth hormone, and it generally functions as a growth inhibitor, and it is also a stress hormone, because at stress situations they are produced, and these are produced in plant from mevalonic acid or xanthophyll. It was first reported or isolated by Adicott in 1963 from cotton bolls, and they are isolated, they have been isolated, and these abscisic acids they are produced in many parts of the plant, but most abundantly they are produced in the chloroplast of the green cells, and it is transported to other parts through diffusion and also through the vascular elements like phloem. Then what are the physiological effects or the application of abscisic acid? The abscisic acid helps in the senescence of leaf senescence. And how it helps in senescence? because excessive presence of abscisic acid in short is known as ABA, means abscisic acid. They stop the protein and RNA synthesis in the leaves. Hence, this stimulates their senescence. If the protein and RNA will be less, if their synthesis will be stopped, then that will lead to the senescence or the aging or deterioration of plant parts. And it also helps in abscission. The name abscisic acid, it is derived from this word abscission actually, because it is mainly helps in abscission of or falling of the plant parts like leaves, flowers and fruits, and by promoting the formation of a abscission zone. Here you see this is the leaf attached to the stem, and here a abscission zone is formed at the base of the leaf and the falling of leaf occurs. This is the internal part of the petiole showing the abscission zone. A abscission zone is always formed at the base of the leaf, and after that only the falling of leaf occurs. And the formation of this abscission zone, it is induced by the abscisic acid hormone. So, it may cause the premature falling of plant parts like leaves, flowers and fruits. Other functions like seed dormancy. Actually, abscisic acid promotes seed dormancy, and you can say abscisic acid is the main cause of the seed dormancy, and this seed dormancy due to abscisic acid, it can be overcome by gibberellins. Since abscisic acid induced dormancy, it is also having another name dormin. Abscisic acid is also used, it is also act as an anti-transpirant, because it causes the closure of stomata. You know, through stomata water is transpired or evaporated at the transpiration process. If stomata are closed, there will be no transpiration, and stomata closure occurs due to ABA or abscisic acid, because it induces this potassium ion to efflux out of the guard cells, and the osmotic pressure of the guard cell changes, and the turgidity also it is affected, the guard cells become flaccid. So, there is the closure of guard cell, and that led to the closure of stomata. Due to the flaccidity of guard cells, the stomata closure occurs, and all these happen due to the abscisic acid. That is why it is known as anti-transpirant. Then abscisic acid also cause the stoppage of cambium activity, because formation of abscisic acid stops mitosis, that is the cell division. So, if mitosis or cell division is stops, then there will be no meristematic activity of the cambium, there will be no growth. Then the another effect is resistance. Abscisic acid increases the resistance of the plant, like to cold or any other type of resistance. As you know, when there is a water stress, there is a transpiration decreases due to the abscisic acid. Transpiration is checked due to the closure of stomata by abscisic acid, that we have already discussed, and so that helps in the resistance of the plant. Therefore, this abscisic acid is also known as the stress hormone, because it helps in tolerating the stress situation during the plant. Then another effect of abscisic acid, the control growth. Abscisic acid, it is antagonistic, or it is opposite to gibberellins, and it counteracts the actions of other growth hormones, which are the growth promoting hormones like auxins and cytokinins, and it keeps the activity of all these growth promoting hormones under the check. So, these are all the effect of the physiological effect of abscisic acid. So, all these 5 different types of plant hormones which we have discussed in this class, actually all these 5 types of hormones, they interact among themselves, and then they produce some actions like growth, development and differentiation. And in the life cycle of plant, at every stage of its life cycle, there you find one or other hormone, they are having a certain role to play, and these roles which are played by these hormones, these may be antagonistic or synergistic. That means synergistic means when many hormones they act together on the same phenomena, that is their synergistic action, whereas if they act opposite in opposite manner on a particular action, then it is called antagonistic. So, let us discuss what are these antagonistic and synergistic role of plant hormones. For example, cell division, cell division is induced by auxin, cytokinin both. So, in this particular action, auxin and cytokinin are synergistic. Similarly, cell growth is induced by all these three hormones, auxin, gibberellin and cytokinin. Morphogenesis or differentiation is also stimulated by auxin and cytokinin. So, they are synergistic role. You see this senescence process, cytokinin and auxin prevent senescence, whereas ethylene and abscisic acid stimulate senescence. So, you can say cytokinin, auxin with ethylene and abscisic acid, they are antagonistic in this action. Similarly, flowering, the cytokinin promotes flowering in short day plants, whereas gibberellin promotes flowering in long day plants. And auxin, cytokinin, ethylene, all these hormones, they have feminizing effect, that means they produce more number of female flowers, whereas gibberellin induce the production of male flower. In stomatal opening, you see cytokinin cause stomatal opening, whereas abscisic acid cause stomatal closing. So, these two hormones, cytokinin and abscisic acid, are antagonistic to stomatal opening. Then dormancy is induced by abscisic acid, whereas dormancy is broken by gibberellic acid, and the cambium activity and the fruit growth, they are induced by auxin and gibberellins, where the abscisic acid checks this activity. So, in some action these hormones are either antagonistic or synergistic. Anyway, they interact among themselves in one way or other and affect the growth and differentiation of the plant. So, with this we came to the conclusion of this class, and as we have discussed these plant growth hormones, actually these are the most important intrinsic factors or the internal factors, which along with some genetic factors and environmental factors, they control or regulate the plant growth and development processes. And the many external factors like temperature, light, etc., they control the growth processes through these plant growth hormones. And these processes, some of these processes like seed germination, vernalization, dormancy, photoperiodism, and all these things we will discuss in our next class. So, wishing you all very happy learning. Thank you, and see you in the next virtual class.